Good morning, San Diego. On a kind of a gloomy cloud cover September Sunday. We'll get you ready for NFL Week 2 action. We'll let you know what's going on in the college football world last night. We'll talk some San Diego State Aztecs football from last night. We'll also talk about their move to the Pac-12 and why I still am scratching my head on why people think it's such a huge thing. I don't think it's that huge. I do think it's a better spot than where they're at in the Mountain West. But the most important thing is the San Diego Padres. And the Padres right now with, I think it's down to 13 games left in the regular season, are really trying to finish this thing strong heading into the postseason. And the Padres, so far this weekend, have put together exactly the weekend that they need in order to really not have to sweat it out in the last 13 games. And they're not in a position yet where they are in non-sweat position, because you never know what can happen in baseball. I think we mentioned it on the Andy and Elston show a couple of times last week about the Padres Roundtable, sponsored by Roundtable Pizza, 2 weeks prior, where Chris Ellis said the only thing that could potentially hurt the Padres right now is just baseball. So with that in mind, yes, it's not officially locked up yet, but you couldn't have asked for a better start to the weekend if you're a San Diego Padres fan than what they have done the last two nights in San Francisco. Not only getting wins in San Francisco, but getting full team wins from an offensive perspective, from a defensive perspective, from a bullpen, from starting pitching, 2 complete team wins over the San Francisco Giants. They really needed this. And they needed a big weekend. And they are 1 game away from potentially having a huge weekend. Foot on the gas, no brakes, foot on their throat. Let's end this thing this weekend. Especially with the Giants. I mean, they're already out of it anyway. But in the process of this weekend, and you knew it was going to be big, and the Padres needed to take care of business because everybody else they were competing with are either playing each other or playing very difficult games in Major League Baseball this weekend. The New York Mets, who they're trying to hold off, that have been hot in the month of September and late August. They're playing the Philadelphia Phillies, which is currently the number 1 team in the National League and the best team, really, in Major League Baseball when it comes to a record standpoint. So the Mets are in Philadelphia. That's a major opportunity for the Padres to take care of business and put themselves away from the Mets. Not only that, the Arizona Diamondbacks are playing the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are a team that are obviously trying to play for a bye in the first round of the playoffs. They got the National League Central Division pretty much wrapped up, but they're playing for a bye down in Arizona. Diamondbacks having some trouble with the Brewers, but Padres getting some positive games out of that. And then in Atlanta, really a win-win situation for the Padres, assuming that the Padres win. But with Atlanta, you're either holding off the Braves and building some games on a team that would help solidify and get your magic number down so you clinch a playoff spot, because there's really 4 teams for 3 spots right now in the National League wild card. Or if Atlanta wins, you start creeping up those National League West standings again. Dodgers have done a good job of just keeping the Padres at arm's length. They've been close, but they haven't been within really much striking distance. But after 2 ass kickings by the Atlanta Braves over the Dodgers the last 2 nights, and the Padres winning 2 games in San Francisco, San Diego's only 3.5 games back from the top spot in the National League West. They're still putting the pressure on Los Angeles. And that's a different, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But with Dodgers in Atlanta and Milwaukee in Arizona and the Mets playing Philadelphia, this was a weekend where if the Padres won, they were going to gain ground on teams, and if the Padres lost, they were going to lose ground on teams. And so it's a big weekend. They needed to win this weekend, and so far they've gotten 2 of those wins. But to be honest with you, you can't be complacent, and I think it's time to get greedy. Try to get that last win in San Francisco where you don't have to play the Giants anymore this season. And a win today could really put the Padres in great shape in that hunt for October, which we're going to talk about at about 8:30 this morning. Great performances out of the Padres the last couple of days. Offensively, it's been great for San Diego. If you look at the box scores, I mean, you got so many guys in the lineup with multi-hit performances. Arise 2 for 6. He's now hitting .320 on the year. Scored a couple of runs at an RBI. Fernando Tatis Jr. For some reason, when this guy comes back from injury, he's just always on a tear. He's back to almost pure Fernando Tatis Jr. form. And it's hilarious to me that people just look at the plus-minus and the win-loss record of Fernando. It's like, well, they played a lot better without him. Maybe they should just trade him away. Are you kidding me? Especially with the performance he had last night. 3 for 6, couple of runs scored, an RBI. You want that guy in your lineup every single day. I can't believe people that say that he's the biggest problem right now because the team happened to rise to the occasion and win when he wasn't there. It may look like statistical data. But the problem with statistics, guys, and you'll see it in a lot of different things. You see it in politics. You see it in sports. You can manipulate data to try to back up your opinion. Is it a fact that Fernando Tatis Jr., or should I say the Padres' win-loss record is currently better without Fernando Tatis Jr.? Yeah, that would be a, quote, fact. But that's not necessarily the correlation. It's not right. The causation is not the correlation, whatever it is, back to back. So just because that happens to be the case, that doesn't mean that you can conclude that Fernando Tatis Jr. is a problem for the team. I'm so tired of hearing that answer. I'm so tired of seeing that on social media. Can we not be dumb? Let's use our brains, guys. I mean, would you rather have Bryce Johnson out there in right field or Fernando Tatis Jr.? I mean, what are we talking about here? I don't understand it. The Padres have been so much better since 2019 than what they had been for decades that it's almost like, as Padres fans, we just have to create problems because we're so used to having major problems. Fernando Tatis Jr. needs to be in the lineup. Give it a rest. He ain't getting traded. You shouldn't trade him. If you traded Fernando Tatis Jr., that would be catastrophically bad and probably the worst move in Padres history. So stop bringing that up. I can't believe that's on social media. I can't believe people call in and say that stuff all the time. It's amazing to me. Arise playing great. Tatis playing great. Profar getting back on track last night after he's really had a struggling last couple of weeks of August and for most of the month of September. Manny Machado doing his thing, 2 for 5 last night. Jackson Merrill slowly starting to creep up the lineup. He's doing a good job. I'm not a huge believer. I know a lot of people want to have Jackson Merrill in the top 3 spots in the batting order. I say no. They have protected the kid the entire season. He has put together a great season. Let's not mess with it. Let's not mess with it. I mean, everybody has said that Jackson Merrill is going to come back down to earth and have that, rookie fatigue in August and September. He hasn't had it yet, so why encourage the situation by putting him up in a spot where he might get attacked a little bit more than he does right now in the bottom half of the lineup? Padres have done a smart move by keeping him in the lower half of the lineup. Just let him do it. Keep him in the lower half of the lineup. You don't need him batting third. He could do that next year. Don't mess with what's good right now. Let it be. Stop tinkering with it. Just let it happen. And I'm not talking about the Padres. The Padres are keeping everything pretty much uniform more times than not. I don't know what took him so long to put Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. But aside from that, they've done a great job of just keeping everything in order and putting guys in spots in which the Padres can have the most success. Leave Merrill in the bottom half of the lineup. It lengthens your lineup. Yeah, as Raymond Dominguez says in the chat, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leave it alone. I mean, I do think you need to make a decision on who your 3-hitter is coming up. And I honestly would probably have Fernando there when it came to a playoff game. I'd go Arise, maybe Profar 2. And then I'd go Tatis 3, Machado 4, Bogarts 5. And now you're talking like Merrill or Cronenworth 6 or 7, Solano 8, and whoever's catching is 9. That's a damn good lineup right there for the Padres. That is a playoff winning lineup right there for the Padres. Lineup right now is great. Playing good baseball. Let's talk about the pitching staff. Joe Musgrove, 6 innings, shutty. Only 3 hits, 8 punch-outs. I was worried about Joe Musgrove at the beginning of the year because of the injuries that he had, especially in his shoulder. And there's no saying that he feels 100% either. I mean, I'm sure Joe is battling right now on the hill. But I'm telling you right now, that time off has really paid off for Joe to help in his ability to pitch effectively with his arsenal and maybe a different type and a little bit different mechanics to help him out with his shoulder. Because that was a major problem for him for a while and something that, might continue to be a problem. And he is doing an exceptional job for the Padres since coming back. His ERA is now down to a 4.23, which seems kind of high, but since he came back, I mean, the guy has been exceptional and really giving the Padres a very difficult but great decision that they're going to have to make come postseason time. And we talked about on the roundtable, who starts game 1, 2, and 3 of an opening round playoff series. You got a lot of options, and it's great. And I think the Padres need to get there first before we really start diving into it. But Joe Musgrove's been outstanding. He's been phenomenal since coming back from his injury. He needed that time off, and he's figured out a way to be successful, while probably not being fully 100%. And none of these guys are really 100% at this point in the season. But aside from like a 10-minute swing in San Francisco, Joe has been great. I mean, even if you include his outing he had at Petco Park Sunday on September 8th, he's got a 2.37 ERA since he came back on August 12th. A 2.37 ERA. Opponents are hitting 196 against Joey's 3-1 in 7 starts. He's got a fielding independent pitching of a 2.78, and opponents are hitting 258 on balls in play. He's been exceptional. I mean, you take that one giant start out of there from last week, and I mean, his ERA is under 2. He's seen it drop from a 5.66 when he came back to start against the Pirates on August 12th. It is now down to a 4.23. I mean, Joe has been exceptional. That's exciting news if you're the Padres, because what wins in the postseason more times than not is really good pitching, and you need really good starters. And that seemed like that was going to be a question mark for the Padres entering this season, but right now, they got a lot of options. Joe Musgrove, been great. Let's talk about Friday night starter, Dylan Cease, shutty. Dylan Cease has been a little up and down, but he's just trying to make it to the end of the season. I still fully believe in Dylan Cease having a great postseason for the San Diego Padres. But on Friday night, Dylan Cease, same thing. 6 innings, no runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts. Another great performance by the starting pitching for the San Diego Padres. Today, it will be Martin Perez. And we'll see what Yu Darvish has got. You needs to ramp it up a little bit, but I really trust you as well. I disagree with most of our roundtable saying start Michael King in game 1 of a playoff series. I don't think you do that. Michael King has pitched the most innings he has ever pitched in his entire career this year in a single season. He has never pitched this many innings in a single season in his entire career, except for this year. And we're going to start him game 1? I don't think so. I think you have options. I think this is a good problem to have. It opens up a good discussion. But I still think you go with Cease, and I think you go with Darvish, and I think you go with Musgrove. And to be honest with you, if you need King to start a ball game to start the divisional series, so be it. Again, you have options. But you don't put Darvish in the bullpen. You're spending a lot of money on that guy, and he's been there. He has done that. He's a veteran. And I know the discussion on the roundtable is like, well, they know it's kind of cliche, and you don't really, just because that is the case doesn't mean you should do it. I disagree. I think you go with what you know. I think you go with guys that have been there and done that before that have experience. Experience is a big thing in baseball. It's a big thing in professional sports. That's why you got people that always say you got to have veterans coming off the bench. You need guys that do not fold under pressure, or players that, can handle the expectations because they've experienced it before. Experience is a huge thing. Being able to say that you have been in that situation before and being able to replicate that outside of postseason actual reps is very difficult. Everybody needs reps, and they need reps in situations that they're going to have to be in. And Darvish has been in those situations. Dylan Cease is a veteran starting pitcher. I mean, those are the two that you got to roll with. And I, for one, if I got a playoff game with the city of San Diego down to their final game facing elimination, there is nobody else that I want on the mound than San Diego's own Joe Musgrove. And so for him on game 3, I'm in. If the Padres have to go to game 3 of the wild card, give me the San Diego kid, because I know that guy's going to give this city everything he's got. Not to say you have to have a local product in order to do so, but I think it comes a little bit extra with Joe in a winner-take-all game, or in a game where if the Padres lose, they're going home. That guy is wearing his city on his jersey to a different level and putting the city on his back. So you go with Cease 1. You should be able to win that game. I think a tough matchup potentially with the Braves, with Dylan Cease going against Cy Young future award winner this year in Chris Sale. I think you got to go with a veteran, and Darvish knows how to get people out. Got to have a veteran, I think, in the postseason starting games. I like Michael King. I think Michael King has been great all year. But he is the only one out of that rotation with real bullpen experience. He's the only one that has pitched the most innings this season for the first time in his career. And he is really the only one in that rotation that doesn't have postseason starting experience. That sounds like potential disaster waiting to happen. Well, the guy's been great all year. But this is the most innings he's ever thrown. And we're going to throw him to the Wolves in game 1? No. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Go with the veterans. But it's a good problem to have because the starting pitching's been great. And I'm going to tell you right now, the difference between 2022 and 2024 right now is when you get to game 4, if you have to use a different starter, it ain't Sean Manaea and Mike Clevenger. It's Michael King or Martin Perez. Sounds good. This is a good problem to have. Bullpen's been outstanding. I think and MLB.com put together an article on their website, about it's safe to say these 8 teams won the trade deadline. And I guarantee you, and I haven't looked at it, but I've seen the picture on the front, San Diego Padres, the way that they strengthen their bullpen is a major win in the offseason. Major win at the trade deadline. Major win at the trade deadline. The bullpen has been absolutely fantastic. You mix that with the starting pitching that the Padres have had the last couple of days. You mix that with the lineup the Padres have had. This is a team that's built for the postseason. You just have to get there first. And today, against the Giants, you could really put yourself in a great spot before you have to take on the Astros, followed by the White Sox, and then finish up with LA and Arizona. You're 3.5 games back behind Los Angeles in the National League division, the National League West division. The only way I will entertain that is if you go to LA and at the minimum, you're 2 games back when you get the Chavez Ravine coming up in a couple of weeks. But you got to get the W today against San Francisco. Pre-game show, Ecowater SoCal Padres pre-game show with Sam Levitt will start at 12:05. First pitch at 1:05 today. It is Martin Perez for the San Diego Padres. He's going to try to get the Padres a dub today. Just had a child as he was on paternity leave. He'll be going against Landon Rupp, who's 0-1 with a 3.44. Martin Perez 4-5 with a 4.46. This is a big day for the Padres. Try to get a W to make a good weekend a great weekend for the San Diego Padres. Could have been a great sports weekend for San Diego. Tough loss for San Diego State football yesterday. But it's not just football that I was a little bit head-scratching with. We'll talk about football at 9 o'clock. We're going to dive a little deeper into this Pac-12 deal. Is it better for the Aztecs currently? Yes. Was it the best possible solution for them the last couple of years? No. We're going to hear from J.D. Wicker, who is on with Gwen and Chris. I'm going to talk about this when we come back. A little bit of a change, but we're going to get back to Padres talk too. If you want to weigh in, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Talking Padres, talking Aztecs, the Pac-12, Aztec football, which, again, did not look very good last night. Talk college football, NFL, whatever you guys want to do, give us a ring, 833-288-0973. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the YouTube page for the Braden Surprenant Show at B_SURP. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP as well. Just getting started on a Sunday morning right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Little Riley Green on a Sunday morning. A little gloomy out there, San Diego. Actually feels like a fall day. The weather's been great the last couple of days. After that nice, nasty heat wave we had, it's good to be in football season with San Diego State Aztecs football underway. USD football is underway. I will be missing Friday's show on Andy and Elston, traveling with USD to North Dakota as they take on North Dakota's, I think they're like the Fighting Eagles or something like that. I'll have it down before we go up there. But Grand Forks, North Dakota, USD will be playing UND. So that'll be fun to be a part of. We'll be streaming that on USDToreros.com. But I've never been to North Dakota. I don't think I'll ever go back to North Dakota. I don't know how many people have actually been to that state. It's a very interesting trip, to say the least. And then the week after that, USD's got Drake in their conference out in Des Moines, Iowa. San Diego State this week, and again, if you want to weigh in on this, we haven't had too many people weigh in on this particular topic, at least during the week on our shows. But San Diego State this week announced that they're joining the Pac-12. And we're going to talk more Padres baseball in just a little bit when we talk about the hunt for October. But they're going to join the Pac-12. And I don't like, when they announced that they're joining the Pac-12, I was like, okay, I don't really get it. I don't understand. I don't get what the big fuss is about, because I think, and look, when you're San Diego State, you have to, this is a better move for them than just staying in the Mountain West. I would agree with that. I don't think it's that great of a deal for them in comparison to what a half share in the Big 12 might have been. But, and we're going to hear from J.D. Wicker here in a second, who joined Gwen and Chris on Friday to talk about these particular instances. But my overall just reaction to this, and I talked about it a lot on Andy and Elston this week, is I just don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, from the perspective of like, well, they could be a power conference. They're going to get all these schools. But like, it's like a trade deadline thing. You know, don't tell me who you can go get. Tell me what you're going to give up. I mean, yeah, you could go get schools, but who are those schools going to be? Until the ACC just completely collapses, there's not a single Power 5 school or Power 4 school, whatever the power thing is. There's not a power school that is leaving their current power conference to go to the Pac-12. There's just not. So I don't understand. To me, the entire move was about the name. It was all about this name. It's almost like this prize that San Diego State just had out of its reach for so many years. And even though the prize has decreased in value, it's like, well, we've been so set on being a Pac-12 school that we're going to go for it regardless. I mean, they're thinking about adding UTSA or Memphis or Tulane. Are those good college football programs? Yeah, because this is about college football, let's be honest. Yes, they are good college football programs, but those are not programs that are going to give you a better deal than what the Pac-12 was offered when they had USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, even Utah and Colorado, Oregon, Washington. They turned down $30-something million a year with that group. But you thinking this group's going to get more? I don't understand the logic. I thought when I got the report on Monday about San Diego State talking with the Big 12 a couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, about a potential half share, that they fumbled the bag on this so bad. But, I mean, I got to hear the reasoning from San Diego State. And J.D. Wicker was on with Gwen and Chris on Friday, and he talked about this exact topic when Chris Ello asked him on Friday on Gwen and Chris.
platform to kind of explain it to some people who say, well, they could have gone into the Big 12, but you really couldn't go into the Big 12 under what they were offering.
Yeah, we would have been at such a competitive disadvantage. And, some people say, well, you'd had a seat at the table, but it would have been at the little kids' table. So you have to, by the time, we would have potentially gotten a full share, we'd be, 6 to 8 years behind everybody else, that much further behind. And you're competing against those people day in and day out for those resources. Whereas, we have a better shot, currently in the Mountain West, and then going into the Pac-12 to get that group of 5 CFP slot. We probably have a better shot than 40 of the A4 schools out there. So we're thrilled with what we've got right now. We're going to keep building it. Everybody we talked to, I was like, look, we deserve a full share. You look at all that we've done at San Diego State. We've got a $310 million football stadium. We've got the best combined record of, football and men's basketball of anybody in Division I. We went to the national title game. We've been to, 12 out of 13 straight years, I think, or 11 out of 12 actually went to bowl games. We were eligible during the COVID year, but didn't go. So why wouldn't we deserve a full share? 28th, largest DMA. We own we own San Diego from, that football and basketball standpoint. So we're, that's what we felt, but, we weren't going to go into a place that we couldn't be successful.
I don't get it. I just listening. I still don't understand. I don't get it. What are you talking about? Little kids table. You're at the big table. Just because you're not making as much as those other teams in the conference right now doesn't mean that's going to be permanent for the future. You had a seat in a power conference, a guaranteed seat at a power conference. You were putting your basketball program in the best basketball conference in the country. And a half share is still worth more than a full share in this new Pac-12. That's what I don't understand. Are you going to have to travel a little bit more? Yeah, but you're going to have national exposure on the ESPN and Fox networks. You're going to fill your stadium with teams that are coming to town that people actually want to watch San Diego State compete against. You're going to have Viejas Arena with Arizona and Kansas and Baylor and Texas Tech in basketball, potentially in a 2-week span. I don't get it. What am I missing? They're going all out to potentially just be the best team in a lower conference and then going to let 12 people on a committee decide between them and other champions if they deserve a playoff spot? Are you kidding me? If you're in the big conference and you don't even do that great, you're still in the big conference, you get benefit of the doubt. A half share in the Big 12 right now. And by the way, they're going to have a new TV deal in 2030, which will probably increase. And Brett Yormark is trying to negotiate basketball completely separate. You make the loyalty move with the Big 12, you get rewarded. The 4 schools that joined out of Group of 5 conferences to the Big 12 got half shares. I bet they're probably not going to have half shares for the remainder of time. They'll get a new TV deal and they'll start splitting it again. I mean, a full share of $10 million is not as much to me as $20 million and a half share. Sure, you win your conference at the lower level, and then what happens? You still have to compete with these schools at the high level for the playoff, and you're never going to win those games. J.D. Wicker says it in his answer. Well, we didn't like the fact that we were only going to make a half share trying to compete with resources of schools in our conference that are getting a full share. Well, guess what? That half share is still going to be a better chance at beating a school in a Power 5 conference than it is trying to beat a school in a Power 5 conference when you're getting group of 5 money? I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me why they would do that. Now, from the perspective of, is it better than Mountain West? Yes, I totally agree. I understand that 100%. It's better than being in the Mountain West. I totally get that. They're going to make more money. They're going to be in a conference with better teams, slightly. It's better than being in the Mountain West. I think it's better than just sitting around waiting for something magical to happen. And granted, the Big 12 ship has sailed. They had an opportunity to do that in the past. I think they royally messed up. And this is kind of a salvage project. But I don't get it. It's almost like they just feel comfortable being where they're at. I don't get. I've seen this in San Diego sports so much. It's just like it's almost like San Diego just likes being the little guy all the time. And even though J.D. Wicker said they'd be at the little kid table, you're no longer a little guy when you're in a power conference. I don't understand. What am I missing? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to get your phone calls when we come back. I know Kevin's on the line, wants to talk about this. I don't understand this move one bit. We'll talk Padres baseball when we come back as well. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Good morning, San Diego. Braden Surprenant show rolls on. We're going to go to 10 o'clock this morning, getting you ready for some NFL football today. But coming up at 12:05, we have the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. First pitch at 1:05 right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We'll talk about Hunt for October in just a little bit. We're talking about San Diego State to the Pac-12. Is it a good thing? Well, yeah, it's better than being in the Mountain West. Is it like it would have been 10 years ago? No, absolutely not. I think they messed up an opportunity by not being in the Big 12 at a half share. That's how I see it. Obviously, it's not how San Diego State sees it. I find it like it's just little brother syndrome here in San Diego sometimes on a lot of different things. And I feel like it needs to be better. I mean, I want San Diego State to succeed. I want them to be a big thing in town. They got a great brand new stadium. They've done so many things right in the last couple of years, and then this is just frustrating to watch. And then act like they're joining USC and UCLA in a conference, or Arizona State, and all these schools that they wanted to be a part of. It's basically the WAC 3.0. And I know it's not finished yet. They got to put together the teams. But when you start circling around with the national reporters on schools that are interested in going and schools that are making a push, it's like UTSA, Tulane, Memphis. I mean, does that really change it for you? I mean, if you load up on your conference, you're making it more difficult to just pull this thing off. We're like, oh, if we win, we're going to be in the playoff. Well, you have to win. I don't understand. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista, who I know has been wanting to weigh in on this all week. Kevin, what's going on? How's your Sunday?
Oh, boy, Braden, you got the blood pressure up this early in the morning. That's not good. But if you just please indulge me a couple of minutes here, because I'm going to agree with you 100%, first of all. But I'm going to go to some places here that I think will put some bold underlining to this whole situation. But before that, everything you said in the Padres, yes, right on, especially Fernando. Move him to third. He's your slug guy. Enough said. Look, what's your favorite beer, Braden? What's your favorite beer? You got one?
Favorite beer? I like let's play it simple. I like the 394. It's good. It's good stuff.
Okay. So everybody in the chat, think about your favorite beer. And think about what if you wake up one morning, the beer has the same ingredients, or not the same ingredients, but the same label, but they've changed the ingredients. They've watered it down big time. Are you going to buy that beer?
No.
Probably not.
Absolutely
Probably not.
not.
And that's exactly what they have done here by trying to continue to call this the Pac-12, first of all. This is just an insult to basic marketing intelligence. The Pac-12 is gone. It's dead. Nothing more than a memory. And so I'm sitting there watching Oregon State yesterday play Oregon. They've got the Pac-12 logo on the field. What a damn joke. It's just ridiculous to assume that somehow this conference, as great as it was, is never, ever, ever, never underlined coming back in any form, shape, or fashion. So let's get over this, first of all. They need to rebrand it at best. First and foremost, rebrand the damn conference and be honest about it. Secondly, J.D. Wicker said with another San Diego media person this week that the reason why they didn't go to the Big 12 is, he said, quote, we would be underwater financially. And that was not challenged by anybody in the San Diego sports media. Nobody. I want to see if what you're saying is true, $15 million, right, would be their share. Is that correct? That's what you're saying.
Right now,
okay.
UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati get a half share. Last year, they got $18 million before, Kevin, college football playoff payouts and NCAA tournament payouts, which in that conference is a lot higher. Most schools in that conference are getting $50 million for a full share.
So I would challenge anybody out there that's listening. And if anybody at San Diego State is listening, I don't care who it is, whether you're President De La Torre, JD, if you're listening, tell us how you go underwater with $15 million versus the 8 or 10 that you might get from this new entity, whatever you're going to call it in the future. I don't get how you're going to come up with those figures. I challenge them to put that on paper and show us. And that should have been the first order of business by the San Diego sports media. They didn't do it. So shame on them. Next, let's talk about this iteration of what's left over of schools out there. You're absolutely spot on. There's not one damn one of them that brings any cachet or interest to the national scene. All you're doing is replacing a group of 5 for another group of 5, and this notion that someday you might be a power conference when you could have been in one, this is stupid. UT San Antonio, are you kidding me? You're going to buy season tickets for that? You're going to buy season tickets for Tulane? And you're already talking about replacing it with most of the Mountain West is going to come back. I mean, you've got to put UNLV in there. You've got to put New Mexico in there because this is a weak basketball iteration in the six-pack that they've got right now. So Brian Dutcher can't be all that happy with looking up and looking at this, situation that you've got now, and you've lost your 2 biggest league rivals in Vegas and New Mexico in basketball. I don't get it.
And in the new conference, this Kevin, you could have renewed the rivalry with BYU, and you could have renewed the Mountain West rivalry with Utah, and you could have renewed the rivalry with TCU in football as well. I mean, there's so many different things that would have worked out, especially for basketball. And I thought it was interesting that JD went on to say with Gwen and Chris about how it helps basketball so much more. And I'm like, you had an opportunity to put your basketball program in the best basketball conference in the country and have Kansas and Arizona show up. And by the way, that conference is still talking to UConn about basketball. They're still talking to Gonzaga about basketball, and they want to sell their basketball media rights separately from football as another source of revenue. I don't understand financially how the Pac-12 move makes more sense than a half share in the Big 12.
Well, again, the San Diego sports media, you heard the press conference. Did they ask them anything like this? I mean, these were the stupidest damn questions. What is wrong with these sports writers and sports media people that sit there and just go gaga glaze over these media get-togethers? I mean, my God, what a disservice they've done to everybody. I'm furious about this because this is not the time to be screwing up. You've got a football program right now at San Diego State that's in tatters. It's going to take them at least 3 years, to turn this thing around based on another 150 yards of penalties last night. I mean, what are you selling here? It's basically you're going back and saying, wing and a prayer, we're hoping this happens. We're hoping that we get a TV network. How? With what? You've got nothing there. There's not one major media market in the group of 6 or that iteration of 6 that they've got now. And there's nothing else out there that is going to expand the media market.
I agree with you, Kevin. And on top of that, and I appreciate the phone call, we got to get to break. We'll talk more about this in the second hour. On top of that, in this day and age of streaming, you need large fan bases to carry that. And you didn't really add that either with this deal. I don't get it. Kevin doesn't get it. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Hour done, hour to go. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each every Sunday morning, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning, talking local topics, baseball, San Diego State. Lots to talk about with San Diego State. Anybody want to sell me this Pac-12 move? I mean, try to sell it to me. I've been negative on it the entire week. I've been negative on it today. I want the best for San Diego State, and I feel like this is not the best for the Aztecs. I feel like this is not the best for their fans. I feel like it's not the best for their alumni. I don't understand. I feel like it's not that great of a move for San Diego State. Is it better than Mountain West? Yes, absolutely it is. From that perspective, if you look at it from just like it's either Mountain West or this conference, all right, I'm on board. It's better. I agree. But when you go out and you talk about and you have these things about the rumors of the meetings of the Big 12 and you talk about the half share, that's where you start losing me on this move being spectacular. You also start to lose me on this deal being spectacular when you try to sell me what the Pac-12 was instead of selling me what the Pac-12 currently is. That's where you lose me also. I don't get it. I don't get it. Especially in this town in San Diego that has just had, for their sports fans, it's just been so small time for so long. We got every minor league sport under the sun, and we got one major sports franchise. And thank the Lord for Peter Seidler buying that franchise and actually putting life into it to the point where they're at right now, where he left his legacy and this team has been invested in and people have bought in, and it's all about the Padres right now, and it's great, and I love that. It's so much better than it was when I was a kid watching the Padres. But this town has lost its NFL franchise. It's got, like I said, every minor league team under the sun. And we keep trying to sell everybody in town like this little stuff is so great. This is so great. We love being in this Pac-6. I'm going to tell you why this is actually better than being in a power conference. You know what? It's actually better that we don't have the NFL here. Look at all these minor league teams. I don't understand. And you know what? This is not on the minor league teams. They're trying the best they can, right? I mean, it's a market. It's a San Diego market. It's a good. When you invest in your product here in San Diego, people support you. I mean, look at the Padres. They haven't won anything since 2019. They've won a couple of playoff series. They haven't, in reality, they haven't won anything. They haven't won a division. They haven't won a pennant. They haven't been to a World Series. I mean, they really haven't won anything. And this is not a knock on the Padres. But they invested in their team. They spent money. They go, look, we're trying. And what has the city done? They've packed the place. They've gone out there and stuffed Petco Park. It's the place to be. And all the Padres had to do was just try. That's all they had to do. And they did it. And now they're reaping the benefits of all the labor they put in and that hard money that they've invested in the team. That Peter Seidler and the ownership has done. All they had to do was just show an effort to San Diego, and people came out in full force. That's why I hate this BS narrative all the time between, like, the Charger lovers and the San Diegans on, like, well, you never supported the team. BS, we didn't. We did when they tried and they cared about the team, and when they quit on us, we quit on them. That's how it works. And guess what? That's how it works in every town, too. If you show up and try, the people are going to show up and watch. And right now with San Diego State, I don't understand the selling of this six-pack that, as Kevin put perfectly, it's like buying your favorite beer and the label's the same, but they watered it down. Are you still going to buy your favorite beer? The answer is absolutely freaking not. We got a lot of great beer in this town. We got a lot of great craft breweries that make great IPAs, double IPAs, triple IPAs, whatever. A lot of different beers out there. This one's more hoppy. This one's flavorful. I like beer. I'm not that into beer. But at the same time, if your favorite craft beer started tasting like Bud Light or Coors Light or Miller Lite, you'd be like, I'm not buying this anymore. Still going to pay the full price for it? I mean, we didn't even talk about... I can't believe they thought it was going to be I can't understand how it would be a financial problem for the Aztecs to get a half share that's worth more money than what they're going to get in this next TV deal in this six-pack. When they have to pay the exit fee, and the Pac-12 has to pay the Mountain West $111 million for this to happen, but joining the Big 12 would have been financially irresponsible. I don't buy it. Now, I will say this. I don't know the meetings. I don't know the research they put in. I don't know any of that stuff. It's the same thing as like the Padres, right? Like they're never going to show you their books. And San Diego State doesn't need to show us their books either. But I do think there are some compelling questions that need to be answered on this of why does this make sense? I don't think it really does. I don't think it really makes sense at all. I want San Diego State to succeed. I'd love for them to be a power conference school because all that does is make San Diego better. It makes San Diego better. When you got big teams coming in to play the Aztecs that you're used to seeing on TV, it makes San Diego better. And here's the deal. You have to keep positioning yourself in this day and age of college athletics to be in that big group that's going to get the big check eventually. I mean, San Diego State right now already has a hard time filling their football stadium that they just spent a ton of money in. What happens when the split of the power teams and the group of teams into two divisions? What happens when San Diego State's in the second tier in a city like San Diego that has a professional baseball team that already has 1,000 things to do? If San Diego State is not in the top division, does anybody in town care about the Aztecs? It would be like alumni only. I just hope this move was not San Diego State signing their own death wish. Because it would be a travesty if they put all that money in the football stadium and SDSU West and everything just for college football to crumble around them and they had an outlet when they had an opportunity. Half share would have made sense. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to get to more of your phone calls and talk some Padres baseball as well. Let's get out to El Cajon. Brandon standing by. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I despite all those penalties and the way the game turned out, those kids played hard. I like what I saw in the first half. I think there's reason for hope with the football team.
I think the football team, from an actual football standpoint, is going to be fine in a couple of years. I think you got to give Sean Lewis some time to get his thing going. I mean, it's a project. It's not as bad as what he had to turn around at Kent State, but at the same time, I mean, he's got some players from previous Aztec teams that, were not really recruited to play in this offense. I agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the the players' effort or anything like that. They're playing their ass off. I thought they played their ass off up there at Cal. I thought there was a lot of opportunities for them to succeed. I thought you saw a little glimmer of hope with the offense a little bit. I thought the defense has played their ass off the last 2 weeks, at Snapdragon Stadium against Oregon State. And to be honest with you, they kept San Diego State in the game for most of the game yesterday against Cal with the way that they played defensively. Hard. So they're playing hard. It's going to be a work in progress. And, we'll see what they could do next week against Central Michigan. They got the Chippewas on the road.
Yeah, I think they probably were playing poker for a full share, and it didn't work out. Now they're just making the best of trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, I could see that too. But I mean, a half share at $20 million is better than a full share at $10 million, Brandon.
Yeah, a lot of travel though. Hey, I want to see the Padres take out the Dodgers. What a way to go into the playoffs!
That would be great, and I'd love to see that happen. But you got to be within 2 games minimum by the time you go to Chavez Ravine. So you got to keep the pace up and hope Atlanta can keep beating up on Los Angeles this weekend. That's one thing that needs to happen. The other thing that needs to happen here is, the other thing that you really don't want to do, and I agree, I think it'd be great if they won the division. I think it would be to me a reward and a trophy for the fans who have supported you all year and done a great job filling out Petco Park. But I don't want to just burn myself out to try to catch the Dodgers when I got bigger fish to fry in the postseason. But they're within striking distance. At least keep putting the pressure on. I agree with that.
Yep. They look good. Having a bench player like Donovan Solano, they're pretty good. They're if they keep playing this kind of baseball, they can do it.
I think so too, and I think they got a good playoff caliber baseball team. Brandon, appreciate the phone call. Thanks again.
Have a nice day.
Padres baseball is getting started today with the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 12:05. First pitch 1:05 against the San Francisco Giants. Hunt for October for the San Diego Padres is going to be it's coming down to the nitty gritty. Padres got 13 games left. They only got 4 games left against teams below 500. That's 1 game today against San Francisco, 3 against the White Sox. And then they got 9 games against teams above 500. All 9 of those games will be against teams that will be in the postseason in 2024. The Astros are going to win the division in the American League West. They are far enough in front of the Seattle Mariners at this point in time. Seattle now only 76 and 73. Mariners have a decent shot at the wild card, but still 2.5 games back. Astros having a 4.5 game lead on Seattle. And then you got the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, which those are going to be playoff series. So in reality, you really only have this week, and then you start the playoffs against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, 2 teams that you'll probably have to face in the postseason as well. But if you look at it, San Diego, top spot in the wild card right now, 2.5 game lead on the Atlanta Braves / New York Mets, who are tied for the final wild card spot. In between them is the Arizona Diamondbacks at 82 and 66. Padres picked up some games on the Rattlebacks the last couple of days. They now have a 1.5 game cushion on Arizona, which is good. You got to be able to try to extend that again today against San Francisco. Final team trying to compete for a wild card spot, Chicago Cubs. They've lost 3 in a row. You pretty much could put a fork in those guys. They're done. Even though they got Oakland, Washington, and Cincinnati left on their schedule with a trip to Philly, Cubs being 6 games behind the Mets and the Braves right now with the way that those two teams are playing, it's going to be hard for them. But you could pretty much write off the Chicago Cubs. I think they're done for 2024. That's 4 teams for 3 spots. Padres in a good spot right now, keeping the cushion away from them. Atlanta's got 14 games left. The Mets have 14 games left. Diamondbacks with 14 games left. And the Cubs, as I mentioned, with 13 games left. Atlanta's got 2 more against L.A. They'll play 6 games on the road against Cincinnati and Miami before playing 6 games at home against the New York Mets and the Kansas City Royals. That will be a fun last couple of series for the Atlanta Braves and really the New York Mets, San Diego Padres, and Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, these 4 teams, the last 2 series for each team is pretty remarkable. New York Mets have 1 more today in Philly. They'll have 3 against Washington in Flushing Meadows, and then they'll have 4 next weekend against Philadelphia before playing 3 at Atlanta and 3 at Milwaukee. It's a tough stretch to finish for the New York Mets. And the Mets-Braves series is going to be crucial in the second to last series of the season. I mean, basically, after this week, Atlanta, New York, San Diego, and Arizona all play playoff series. San Diego, I mentioned their schedule already. Arizona's got 1 more against Milwaukee at home. Then they got 3 in Colorado, where they could try to make up some ground. And then they have 4 in Milwaukee, who, again, even though the Brewers have already locked up really the National League Central, they're still within striking distance to try to get a first-round bye in the postseason. They're a game back behind Los Angeles. LA is 4-6 in their last 10 and have lost 2 in a row. So not only are the Padres putting pressure on LA, but the Brewers are a game back from LA for a final bye in the postseason. Put the pressure on the Dodgers. Let's see what happens. So Milwaukee will be playing for something when they welcome Arizona in a week and a half. And then the Diamondbacks will host San Francisco, and then, of course, the big 3-game series between the Padres and Diamondbacks to finish up the year. It's going to be a great finish here in MLB, especially in the National League wild card. So 8 games left for the Braves against teams above 500, 6 against teams below. The Mets have 11 games against teams above 500, only 3 below. Padres 9-4 in terms of games against teams above and below 500. Arizona 8-6, Chicago 3-10 games against teams below 500. That's the only thing, in my opinion, keeping them relatively in it, but I think they're done. At 6 games back from a wild card spot, I think they're done. Magic number to clinch the playoffs. 10 games for the Padres. Magic number is 10. For every time they win, it drops a game. For every time either Atlanta or the Mets lose, it drops a game. Mets magic number's 13 with Atlanta. Arizona's 12. In terms of elimination number, Cubs elimination number is now 7. Atlanta and New York is 14 because they're going to be probably in it until roughly the final day. We will, Nate, in the chat, be doing an injury update when we come back on the NFL. Who's in, who's out? Got to get them for your starters, for your fantasy team. I'll let you know what's going on as the inactive list has now dropped around the NFL. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 9:24 on a Sunday morning. Braden, Surprenant, bringing you live and local sports talk on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Thanks again for making our Sunday morning a part of yours. Talked a lot of Padres baseball in the first hour. San Diego State to the Pac-12. Why I don't understand the move at all. But we'll see what happens with the Aztecs. Hopefully they can add some more teams. I'm curious to see what this media deal is going to be. And everybody keeps saying, well, they wouldn't have done this if they didn't think they were going to get a big media deal. But I don't know how a conference with San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Washington State, Oregon State, Tulane, and UTSA gets a better TV deal than USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, Washington, Oregon, Washington State, Oregon State, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State. I don't understand. I don't get how that is even possible to happening. I did see somebody in the chat talk about the travel for San Diego State. And everybody always wants to bring up, like, well, they have to travel to West Virginia and UCF. Those are like the two schools they'll probably hardly ever have to travel to. You don't get to play everybody. You don't play everybody every year. There's too many teams. These conferences have too many teams in them. You're not going to play everybody every year. They're probably going to limit the amount of times that you have to fly to the East Coast. They're already doing that with the schedule now. Travel, you're playing BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, Arizona, Arizona State. Kidding me? Schools in Texas. You know how long a flight is to Dallas? It's 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's a Southwest flight. Southwest goes there like 8 times a day. It's not hard to get there. It's harder to get to Laramie, Wyoming than it is to get to most cities in the Big 12. Manhattan, Kansas is easier to get to than Laramie, Wyoming. So you can say everything you want about, they got to go to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a direct flight. You got to fly to West Virginia. Well, Morgantown is an hour from Pittsburgh. You fly to Pittsburgh instead of flying to Denver and then busing to Laramie. Travel is a non-factor at this day and age of college athletics. Does it put a toll on your student athletes for certain sports? Yes, but that's more for like Cal and Stanford to worry about going to the ACC. As I said, we talked about a lot of that in the first hour. We do want to get to some injury news in the National Football League as we get you ready for NFL Sunday. Fantasy football week 2 inactive status for a lot of important players in the National Football League. We're starting to get a lot of the inactive lists coming out from around the NFL. Officially, it's supposed to happen at about 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, so most of these have already been put out. Let's talk about some of the inactives, starting with the game in Carolina. I don't think anybody's got this guy, but Tommy Tremble is active for the Carolina Panthers, had an hamstring injury. The impact, of course, is Jatavion Sanders did very little in week 1 as a fill-in for Tremble. We'll see how the Panthers use the position this week. David Njoku, tight end for the Cleveland Browns, with an ankle injury, is out. David Njoku out for Cleveland. Jordan Atkins will start for the Browns in week 2 and perhaps longer as Njoku has been ruled, quote, week to week. Jake Ferguson, the tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, has a knee injury. He is inactive. Expect Luke Schoonmaker to get the bulk of tight end targets because other tight end for Dallas, John Stevens Jr., is out with a hamstring injury. So expect Braden Spanford as the only other healthy tight end option for the Cowboys. Ferguson, John Stevens Jr., both out for Dallas. Expect Luke Schoonmaker to get the bulk of tight end targets for the Cowboys. If you need a tight end, you haven't added him yet, Luke Schoonmaker might be a nice move this week in fantasy football. As for Detroit, Jameson Williams is active today with an ankle injury, limited in practice all week, but it looks like he is healthy enough to start at least the game. Isaiah Williams, receiver for Detroit, with an abdomen injury, is out. Khalif Raymond firmly locks in as a no worse than a team's number 3 wide receiver option. Green Bay, Jordan Love, inactive as expected. Not a surprise. Love was not even medically cleared to play. Malik Willis becomes the quote, unsurprising, uninspiring starter for the Green Bay Packers. Don't be surprised if Sean Clifford finishes that game for Green Bay. Running back for Green Bay, Marshawn Lloyd, hamstring injury, is active. He missed week 1, but will get to debut in week 2. Still expect Josh Jacobs to get the ball early and often for the Packers. Jaden Reed, calf injury, active for Green Bay. Even though he is apparently able to play, quarterback situation should point you elsewhere if you're thinking about starting Jaden Reed today in fantasy football. Indianapolis, Josh Downs, inactive for the Indianapolis Colts. Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce both get value boosts if you have them in fantasy football. Josh Downs, inactive with an ankle injury. Jacksonville's Evan Ingram, the tight end, inactive for the Jags. He got hurt during warm-ups, which suddenly thrust Luke Farrell into the spotlight. It's quite the downgrade. Evan Ingram starters, get him out of your lineup. He has been ruled inactive for Jacksonville. As for the Chargers, they have 2 active players coming off their injury list. Joshua Palmer is active with a knee injury. Brendan Rice is a healthy inactive, as Palmer is indeed able to play for the Chargers. Hassan Haskins, the running back for LA, had little impact on the J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards timeshare, but he is active with a toe injury. In Minnesota, Jordan Addison out with an ankle injury. Jalen Naylor should see the second most wide receiver targets behind Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison has been ruled out by Minnesota. Jermichael Hasty, running back for New England, with a knee injury. He is active. Even so, Antonio Gibson was not on the injury report this week. He should be the one to spell Ramondre Stevenson, not Jermichael Hasty. Graham Gano, kicker for the Giants, is active with a groin injury, late to add to the injury report with no designation, so he was always expected to play. Still, if you have another option, might want to use it. Seattle's 2 players. Kenneth Walker III is inactive with an oblique injury. It's Zach Charbonnet to start, Kenny McIntosh in reserve, George Halani being elevated from the practice squad. Not a good sign for Kenneth Walker III. Pharaoh Brown, tight end for Seattle's, out with a foot injury. Noah Fant will start after being upgraded during the week. Christian McCaffrey, calf injury, out, injured reserve. McCaffrey will sit for a minimum of 4 weeks. Jordan Mason becomes a must-start option for San Francisco and, of course, for your fantasy team. Afternoon games, Xavier Weaver, Arizona receiver, is questionable. T. Higgins is doubtful for Cincinnati. Devon Valley for Denver is out with a rib injury. Hollywood Brown is on the injured reserve. He's out with a shoulder injury. Don't expect him to play all season. If you have Hollywood Brown, you haven't dropped him yet, you should probably drop him. Davis Allen, tight end for the Rams, back injury is out. Russell Wilson is questionable with a calf injury for Pittsburgh. Roman Wilson, the wide receiver, also questionable with an ankle injury. Sunday Night Football, Keenan Allen, questionable with a heel. Might be a game time call on Sunday Night Football. Very risky move to start him today in fantasy. DJ Moore is the only healthy receiver starter in Chicago. Roma Dunze, knee, questionable, also likely to be a last-minute decision. If you have to pivot to somebody, go to Tyler Scott or DeAndre Carter off waivers if you're suddenly stuck on Sunday night. Dameon Pierce, hamstring injury, is questionable. Impact, Cam Akers, healthy scratch in week 1, would likely dress and play if Pierce can. That's the latest look at the injury update in the National Football League for your fantasy football lineups. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. When we come back, we'll get more of your phone calls, talk Padres baseball, get you a quick preview of the NFL, and send you on your way. Only one more segment to go. Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. Thanks again for making our morning a part of yours, whether or not you're gearing up for NFL Sunday or you're getting ready for Padres baseball, crying in your beer about the Aztecs loss yesterday. I agree with Brandon El Cajon, who called in. I mean, the players played their ass off, and I got a couple of guys that I got to coach at the high school level playing. I love watching Lucky Sutton be able to get the ball. I thought he ran the ball well. I know it was trash time late, but love to see him out there playing for the Aztecs. Hey, took Tano Latili's touchdown off the board. BS. Should have been a touchdown for Tano. Got to scrape paint. Can't be blocking guys in the back. Scrape paint is a technique we teach. You got to go through and put yourself in between the guy you're supposed to block and the returner and just rip through and go scrape paint. Like I do with my back. Just rip through, scrape paint. Aztecs do that, and Tano Latili's got a touchdown. So, would have been nice to see, but unfortunately did not work out for the Aztecs on that. They'll be back in action next week against Central Michigan. It will be against the Chippewas. Fire up Chips. Hope the Aztecs can bounce back in that one, but it's been tough sledding so far. And this guy in I've seen some criticisms already of Sean Lewis. I think he's going to turn it around. I really do. I just think you got to give him some time with Aztec football right now because he inherited really a mess. It's going to take some time to be able to put this entire thing together for San Diego State football. I mean, if I was in Fort Worth, Texas right now, I'd be ranting about how you blow a 21-point lead to UCF last night. I mean, I have my thoughts on that. I won't bore you with that. That might have to be like my own Twitter rant, or I start a TCU Horned Frog podcast. I mean, how do you not win a game up 21 points? How do you not kill the clock? You get the ball back up 6 with 4 minutes to go, and you take a minute 20 off the clock on 3 pass plays. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Don't get me started with that. I'll be in a box for the rest of the afternoon. But the benefit of course, the college football playoff expansion, and when you're in a power conference, you don't have to win your conference to make the tournament. You just got to be within striking distance. So we'll see what happens with those guys as well. Padres baseball tonight should be a good one against the Giants. Padres, if they could sweep the Giants, that would be great. It would be great to see. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts at the Braden Surprenant Show. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. That is where our new high school football show is, America's Finest Football Show. It usually airs on Monday nights right here on 97.3 The Fan. This week, we are preempted by the Padres, so we will not have a show this week, at least on the radio, but I will be putting it out on podcast form this week. So America's Finest Football Show, that should populate this week on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great time. We talk college football as well. I saw Prolific the Great in the chat talking about it. It's fun. I love doing it. So we'll talk high school football. We'll talk college football. I don't know if I want to. I haven't decided about dabbling in the NFL. I might, but I do want to make it a high school football centric show, and then the college from an Aztec perspective, and then the national college stuff. But that's where we'll put it for high school football show on Monday nights. I do want to get back to your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to weigh in on San Diego State and the Pac-12, if you want to weigh in on Padres baseball, give me a ring. You still have some time to get part of the conversation before we get ready for NFL Sunday. I think it's like CBS or Infinity Sports Network has a football show that will air right after this show, and then it'll go into Sam Levitt's EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show at 12:05 p.m. Pacific time. First pitch at 1:05. Get back to the phones. Go out to Mitch in New Jersey. Always calls him Mitch. What's going on? How's your Sunday?
Oh, how you doing, Brandon? I'm at the vet with one of my cats. A little high fever here. Gotta make sure he's good.
Oh, yeah, you got to
So
take
get
care of
ready
it.
That's right. So you could be ready to see USC win the Big Ten. Either Jackson Dart or Illinois win the Heisman. And I'm loving the Pac-2. It's just the Pac-2 now, but the rebirth Pac-8, it's great. You can keep the Mountain West. The Pac-12 will be reborn. And it's only because that president couldn't. I don't know how he screwed up, but he did. Made us why. The previous guy that ruined the Pac-12, I grate that I see all these teams on my TV because I'd only met with except for the Pac-12. Otherwise, it's really silly. All this zigzagging. It's crazy. You really have to think what conference they're in and go, okay, thank you for letting me speak my mind, and you have a good week.
Appreciate the phone call, Mitch. Well, the thing is, it's funny. Like, I don't fully realize the new conferences until I start going to USD and I start calling games. Because in the non-football sports and all the Olympic sports, a lot of those, you still play very much local because you have to travel all over the country for your conference games. And so, like, last night I did USD volleyball against Oregon. Oregon's ranked top 15 in the country. They're number 12 in the country. They have a couple of local products. Neil for Oregon went to Poway High School, and then Noemi Glover is a Cathedral Catholic alum, the daughter of Leroy Glover. And, so there are little local ties there too. But it was so weird seeing Oregon's uniform with a Big Ten patch on it. I was like, what is this? I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. The Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. I mean, for the sake of, like, at least keeping the Pac-12 name alive, I guess it's cool. With some of these moves. It's a watered-down pack, though. It's your favorite beer watered down is what it is and what it's turned into. It's just interesting to me. USC winning the Big Ten. I think they got a chance. Ohio State looks good. Penn State looks good. USC. We'll see how they do on the East Coast. A lot of games late in the year on the East Coast for USC. The last thing he said was Jackson Dart win the Heisman. I think there's a lot of good opportunities for some Heisman hopefuls here coming up. A lot of good players in college football right now, throughout college football. And, yesterday was a fun day in college athletics. Some great games. Saw Washington State upset Washington yesterday in the Apple Cup, which is one of the bigger games. I mean, you start looking at some of the scores throughout college football yesterday. And, Tennessee was up like 60-something to nothing at halftime. Stunned Kent State with an onside kick up 30-0. They won 71-0 over Kent State. Georgia in a dogfight with Kentucky, no pun intended. They won 13-12. Texas looks really good. Really good. Beating UTSA 56-7. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, UCLA played a conference game against Indiana yesterday at the Rose Bowl. Got smoked. I don't know how UCLA is going to do in this new conference realignment. I don't feel like they're going to be very successful in this new deal. But they got smoked yesterday. Missouri outlasts Boston College 27-21. Ole Miss continuing to cruise. They look like a college football playoff contender. Utah struggled early with Utah State, but then pulled away. Miami all over Ball State yesterday. Oklahoma handled business against Tulane. That LSU-South Carolina game came down to the wire. Missed field goal gave LSU the dub as they drove down the field to score, late in the game. Outscored South Carolina 14-9 in the fourth quarter. Went on the road 36-33. Michigan kind of struggled with Arkansas State. They won by 10. I don't know how good Michigan really is going to be. And Notre Dame really took out their anger losing to Northern Illinois on Purdue. They beat them 66-7. And then Nebraska handles Northern Iowa 34-3. Good slate of college games yesterday in college football. Let's talk about some of the NFL games today as we get you ready for NFL Sunday. We're going to go through this very quickly on NFL Sunday, get you a nice little preview between, for the morning games as we get you ready for everything in fantasy football and spreads and some bold predictions. We'll rip through it right now on the Braden Surprenant Show. NFL Sunday starting at 10 in the morning here on the West Coast. Big game between the New Orleans Saints and the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 6 as a pair of 1-0 teams battles it out. I like the Cowboys in this game. I think they cover against New Orleans. The bold prediction by ESPN, Derek Carr will throw for 300 yards. I will sell that. I know he had a big day last week against Carolina. I don't think that's replicated against the Dallas Cowboys defense. I will sell that in the bold prediction for Derek Carr. Game number 2, Tampa Bay at Detroit. The Bucs are 1-0. Detroit's 1-0. Detroit's favored by 7.5 today at Ford Field. I like the Lions in this one. They swept Tampa last year in the 2 games that they played them. I think Detroit's better than Tampa. But, maybe Tampa gives them a run for their money. I will take Tampa Bay plus 7.5, but I got the Lions winning. Jalen McMillan will have a 60-yard plus game. I will buy that. Moving on to the next one, Indianapolis at Green Bay. Green Bay will be without their starting quarterback in Jordan Love. Jordan Love got injured in the game down in Brazil against Philadelphia. He'll be out for a couple of weeks. It will be Malik Willis instead for Green Bay. And the Packers are going to have to try to beat the Indianapolis Colts at home without their starting quarterback. Colts are favored by 2.5 coming into the game today. I like the Colts in this one. It's tough to win at Green Bay, but when the Packers don't have a quarterback, and I'm not a big believer in Malik Willis, I think Indianapolis will cover this one very easily against the Packers. I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Clifford ends the game for Green Bay. That is the bold prediction by ESPN. I will buy said bold prediction. Jets at Titans. It's one of the 6 games between teams that are both 0-1. That's an NFL record, by the way. This is the most times on an NFL Sunday we have had the most times we've had 0-1 teams play each other on an NFL Sunday week 2. In this one between the Jets and the Titans, we'll see if Aaron Rodgers and company can bounce back after losing on Monday Night Football against the Niners. Short week for the Jets. Titans had a lead against the Bears. They were cruising. Will Levis did not look very good in the final minutes of that game. Jets are favored by 3.5 in Nashville. I'll take the Titans. I think the Titans win it at home. Jets surrendered 180 yards rushing to the Niners, most of which came outside the tackles. Defense is focused on setting better edges, improving its eye discipline. We'll see if the Jets can do that. As for the Titans, failed to score in the second half against the Bears in their season opener. That's obviously going to be a point of emphasis coming into the week because this comes after Tennessee's average of 7.2 second half points per game, second worst in the league last year. Brian Callahan, head coach of the Titans, says we'll adjust faster and do a better job. We'll see what the Titans have in store. Buy or sell that the Jets, Sauce Gardner, won't allow a single reception again. I will buy that. Even in the Jets' loss to the Niners, Sauce allowed 0 receptions and even got a sack. Might be the start of an epic year for Sauce. I'll buy that. Niners at Vikings. Niners by 5.5 on the road. Vikings with their backup quarterback, Sam Darnold, obviously for a long period of time, probably the entire season. San Francisco by 5.5. I'll take that. I think the Niners cruise against the Vikings. Brandon Ayuk, 100-plus day. I will buy that because I need it to happen in fantasy football. So I'm going to say, yes, Ayuk has a big day for the Niners. Seahawks at Patriots. Seahawks by 3.5. Both teams 1-1. Whoever plays left tackle for the Patriots will give up 3 sacks. I'll buy that. The fact that you're even throwing that out there, ESPN, means it's not looking good for the Patriots O-line. I'll buy that. I'll also take the Seahawks by 3.5. Giants at Commanders, another matchup of those 0-1 teams. Again, an NFL record for week 2. Commanders favored by 1.5 over the G-men. Commanders look pretty good in the loss to Tampa Bay. I like Washington at home with Jalen Daniels. I think they get the job done. I got the Commanders by 1.5. I think they win probably by more. Dorrance Armstrong will record his first sack. Sure, sounds good. I'll buy that. Chargers at Panthers. Chargers by 6 in Carolina. Carolina's 0-1. Chargers are 1-0. Chargers should handle Carolina very easily. I think the Panthers are going to have another rough year. Panthers gave up 180 yards rushing in an embarrassing loss at New Orleans last week. They also lost their best run stopper and Pro Bowl defensive lineman Derek Brown for the year as he suffered a knee injury. Now they have to face the Chargers that rushed for 176 yards, 135 of those by J.K. Dobbins, and a coach in Jim Harbaugh who is committed to the run as any in the game. Panthers probably going to get run all over. The bold prediction, at one point in time in the first 3 quarters, the Chargers will run 10 consecutive running plays. I will totally buy that. I think it's going to be the J.K. Dobbins show for the Chargers today. Expect a lot of ground and pound against the Panthers, which is funny when their slogan is keep pounding. Chargers going to pound the rock against Carolina. They'll cruise to a big victory. If not, LOL, that'd be hilarious. Browns at Jags. Jags favored by 3 against Cleveland. Both teams are 0-1. Browns offense was pretty much a no-show last week, and their usually reliable defense got cooked by the Cowboys. Cleveland's defense will be tested again, this time with 4 contributors on the injured reserve. So Browns are going to be a little bit shorthanded today against the Jags. Jags converted on 2 of 10 third downs against Miami in week 1, including an 0-for-5 performance in the second half. Doug Peterson put it, third down was our nemesis. Therefore, that has to be an emphasis in practice this week. Browns allowed only 4 third down conversions last week against the Cowboys. So a storyline for the Jags to watch. Trevor Lawrence has lost 6 straight starts, longest active streak in the NFL. He has a 48 quarterback rating through that span. That being said, I'll take Jacksonville at home. I think he snaps that streak, and I think the Jags beat the Browns. Jerry Jeudy, 100-yard day. I will buy that for Jacksonville. Last game, Raiders at Baltimore. Give me the Baltimore Ravens by a lot. They're favored by 9. Mark Andrews, 5 receptions, 60+. I will buy that because Isaiah Likely seemed to be the flavor of the week last week in fantasy football. That'll do it for me, Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to the Braden Surprenant Show. We're here each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Enjoy your Sunday. Go Padres.